Hello and welcome to this Thursday edition of the World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Let's take a look at what's making headlines around the world. After years of legal proceedings, the extradition of Tahawwur Rana, a key accused in the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, has reached its final stage. In fact, a team of Indian investigators has already taken custody of the 64-year-old and is flying him currently back to India, while top officials in Delhi have ramped up security and also finalized protocols to handle his arrival. Now, Rana is expected to land in New Delhi anytime today. In fact, Rana, a Canadian-American of Pakistani origin, is returning to India nearly 17 years after the 2008 attacks that killed over 166 people. He will face trial upon his arrival. US authorities, meanwhile, handed him over to India's NIA, or the National Investigation Agency, in California on Tuesday night. The Indian team is flying him back on a government aircraft, which is expected to land in the capital, New Delhi, just hours from now. His return follows a prolonged legal fight over his extradition. My colleague Saurabh joins me live from Mumbai for more on the story. Saurabh, what's the latest you're picking up? When can we arrive the flight? And more importantly, what will be the procedure once he lands?
Well, obviously, once he lands on Indian soil, there is a host of legal procedures to be carried out. My colleagues have been reporting on it throughout the day. Of course, there are legal procedures that have already been decided. Some of them, of course, given the security involved in this, may not happen the normal way, but there are provisions to, do it in a way that's most secure in the law itself. So obviously, from taking custody to placing him under arrest to, to producing him in a court, all of that can happen. For example, producing him in a court can also happen via video conferencing. It's not necessary for him to take him physically. So all of these measures are there within the law. Given the high security involved, all of these measures will be put in place. Now, Tahawwur Rana's role is important to be noted. This was the man who financed, provided logistical support, and provided a cover for the one of the main plotters, David Headley, to come to Mumbai, conduct reconnaissance, identify targets, and help the plotters of the 26/11 attacks. Now, I am at the Kama and All Bless Hospital, which is right behind me. The current NIA chief, the DG, Sadanand Date, was then in Mumbai. He was fighting the terrorists on that day right inside this hospital. And of course, for him, it would be a moment of, a somber moment, because remember, from, fighting those terrorists to actually today heading the agency that's, in a way, primarily responsible for bringing Tahawwur Rana back to India to face the law, to face justice under Indian law in an Indian court in India.
Saurabh, we also, on the diplomatic front, in fact, we had a statement released by Pakistan, which has kind of shrugged off responsibility from the entire episode altogether, like we have been seeing over the past years and decades. What are you picking up on this, and what do you expect from Canada now? Because he was also a Canadian citizen.
Let's deal with Pakistan. Pakistan, as claims have been hollow, Pakistan denying responsibility is something that's now, it doesn't even require an explanation. Ajmal Kasab made it clear of Pakistani involvement. More importantly, David Coleman Headley, deposed in an Indian court, he also made it clear about the Pakistani involvement, and the larger perpetrators still remain at large under protection from the Pakistani establishment. So Pakistan, of course, has always been fomenting terror. It has become, a terrorist sponsoring state, and that has come back to bite them as well. As far as Canada is concerned, now he is of course a Pakistani Canadian citizen, but obviously he's been arrested in the United States, he's been held there, and now of course he has to face trial in India, because this crime this horrific crime which the world watched on its televisions. And this was not, this might have well been a crime against India, of course. It was an attack on India. But look at the people who suffered. They were all nationalities. There were Americans, there were Jewish establishments that were attacked. There were all sorts of people. It wasn't just an attack on India. American citizens died, others died, citizens of different nationalities died. So this is something that perhaps the world will continue to watch as India tries to, make these perpetrators face justice, because the attack itself was not just an attack on India, it wasn't an attack on Mumbai, it wasn't just an attack on the financial capital, it was a terror attack that shook the world.
Of course, Saurabh. And also, I mean, this extradition very clearly underlines that India now is not just talking the talk, but also walking the walk. Thank you so much for those updates, Saurabh. Moving on now, this is, of course, a milestone and indeed a major breakthrough. And it also provides a sense of justice for the victims and also helps, in fact, in establishing the role of others involved and what the questions that can be answered by Rana. For all of this and much more, let's go across to my colleague Vishal, who brings you this special report.
So it's always been alleged that there was close coordination between handlers in Pakistan, most likely ISI and Pak army officials, and the Lashkar-e-Taiba operators and terrorists who were executing these attacks in Mumbai. So all of that could be answered, that the exact nature of the communications between ISI and Lashkar-e-Taiba, was it at the highest level or ISI and Lashkar coordinated towards the lower level? All of that could be answered when authorities start questioning Tahawwur Rana. And the other thing that they can look at is the precise role in facilitating headless surveillance. So we have been reporting throughout that it was Tahawwur Rana's immigration firm that facilitated headless entry into India, and he did that extensive recce operations across Mumbai. So what was the precise role and how did he manage to do that exactly? That will be looked at most definitely. And as we've been reporting throughout, there have been many Pak officials or intermediaries that have been named ever since the attacks were coordinated. So who are these people? There have been few names that have been talked about, but there could be more names that could emerge, whether there were some higher officials of the Pak army or ISI that were involved in coordinating these attacks. All of those questions will be asked to Tahawwur Rana. And also the fact that there are many details of the financial or document-based support that was extended to David Coleman Headley, the main mastermind of the attacks, the person who was responsible for coordinating these attacks. What kind of details he was provided through Rana's channel. So that will also be looked at. And also the fact that there will be some clarity on Headley's connections to the US, because he is a Pakistani American and he's one of the most mysterious characters in this whole saga, because it has been widely reported that one of his ex-wives had contacted American authorities and told them that he had been involved in some mysterious operations. He had been visiting Mumbai, whether or not he's a terrorist. She had fielded these questions to the American authorities, but somehow David Coleman Headley slipped through the cracks and was able to coordinate these attacks. So that question will be fielded to Tahawwur Rana for sure.
US intelligence agencies, meanwhile, we go back to US after the Tahawwur Rana fiasco. Back in Washington, US agencies are now investigating, in fact, whether the FBI played a role in planning the January 6 Capitol riots. Joseph Kent, the chief of staff to intelligence director Tulsi Gabbard, has in fact confirmed the probe during his Senate hearing. Though a recent Justice Department report dismissed such claims, stating no FBI informants were in fact involved in violence. The topic resurfaced as Gabbard launched a task force to investigate alleged politicization within the intelligence community. Now, Kent, who once called the Capitol assault an intelligence operation, was pressed by Democratic senators for evidence. His nomination now hangs in the balance as intelligence community revisits one of the most contentious, in fact, events in recent US and world history for that matter. At least 184 people were killed and more than 155 injured when a nightclub's roof collapsed in the Dominican Republic's capital early Tuesday, including a prominent local singer, a governor, and two former MLS, MLB Major League Basketball players, in fact. It is till now not clear how many people exactly were inside the popular venue, but estimates range between 500 and 1,000. Meanwhile, emergency workers have demolished one of the walls of the club to better reach those still buried under the rubble after 24 hours. While the US President Donald Trump paused tariffs on other countries for 90 days, China was singled out amid rising tensions. Trump has sharply escalated his trade war with Beijing, raising tariffs to 125% on Chinese imports. Trump said that China was not exactly thrilled with the ongoing TikTok sale talks. Now, the decision also comes amid global recession fears and deepening economic rivalry over tech, currency, and even influence. Trump gave mixed signals on whether the hikes were part of a negotiation tactic. Meanwhile, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick confirmed the European Union would not face similar action yet. Beijing, on the other hand, has not responded publicly to the new tariffs, but listened to President Trump's advice for Xi Jinping.
Some economists are saying that right now is technically an embargo on China with 125% tariffs. Are you concerned of escalation beyond the trade war with China?
No, I'm not concerned. I think President Xi is a very smart guy, and I think we'll end up making a very good deal for both. But, you know, we've been treated so badly for so many years. Again, we allowed that to happen. We've been treated so badly for so many years. But no, I don't expect that. I think President Xi is one of the very smart people of the world, and I don't think he'd allow that to happen. And we're very powerful.
Delegates from the US and Russia met in Turkey on Thursday as part of continued efforts to, in fact, normalize embassy operations between the two countries. Now, the talks will not include any discussion of political or security issues, the US had said. Ukraine's absolutely not on the agenda, State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said. Listen in.
Подтверждаю, они состоятся завтра. Это будет второй раунд российско-американских консультаций, который будет посвящен нормализации функционирования дипломатических миссий двух стран. Место проведения, экспертный формат и состав участников встречи остаются неизменными. Консультации пройдут в Стамбуле. Российскую делегацию по-прежнему возглавляет Александр Никитич Дарчиев, теперь уже в качестве посла нашей страны в США. Американскую сторону представит зам госсекретаря Сената Колтер. Также будут представители от внешнеполитических ведомств России и США.
And US President Donald Trump has warned, in fact signaled, that Israel would be the leader in a potential military strike on Iran if Tehran doesn't in fact abandon its nuclear weapons program. Now, the statement came ahead of the expected US-Iran talks in Oman. While Trump described the talks as direct, Iran claims they are indirect, with Oman being the mediator. Trump withdrew the US from the 2015 nuclear deal in 2018 and has since increased pressure on Tehran. Now, with intelligence suggesting Iran is closer than ever to, in fact, developing a nuclear bomb, fears of military escalation are rising across the region, not only West Asia. No official timeline has been set for the proposed diplomatic or military steps as of now. The US Senate has confirmed Pete Hoekstra as the new ambassador to Canada, approving him with 60 to 37 votes. A former ambassador to the Netherlands and ex-Republican congressman, Hoekstra steps in the role at a time of unusually strained ties between Washington and Ottawa. President Trump's recent comments joking about annexing Canada and ongoing trade tensions have only stirred diplomatic friction further. During his confirmation hearing, Hoekstra reaffirmed Canada's sovereignty, distancing himself effectively from President Trump's remarks. With bipartisan backing, Hoekstra now heads north to navigate a rather complex relationship between two historically close allies. Staying with Trump, the US president has signed memoranda directing the Justice Department to investigate two former officials from his first term. Now, Miles Taylor and Chris Krebs, while also stripping them of security clearances. Taylor, who penned a 2018 anti-Trump op-ed under Anonymous, was called a traitor by the US president. Meanwhile, Krebs, who led cybersecurity efforts and defended the 2020 election's integrity, also has come under fire. Now, this is part of a broader push by Trump to retaliate, in fact, against critics, including law firms linked to investigations against him in the past. Meanwhile, on the other side of the aisle, critics are warning that this escalates his post-Trump campaign of retribution. Taylor responded, warning America is headed down a dark path. Listen in.
And it was like he was this gentleman or that gentleman, like I dealt with him all the time. I had no idea who this guy. I said, who the hell is Miles Taylor? And he made a living on going on CNN talking about the president. And I think what he did, he wrote a book, Anonymous, said all sorts of lies and bad things. And I think it's like a traitor, it's like spying. He's tried to make the case that this election was a safe election. I think he said this is the safest election we've ever had. And yet, every day you read in the papers about more and more fraud that's discovered. He's the fraud. He's a disgrace. And I have no idea who he is. Krebs, no idea who he is.
Republican infighting stalled a major budget vote in the House. Speaker Mike Johnson had aimed to pass the framework before the spring break, but could not convince conservatives, holdouts demanding deeper spending cuts. Dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill by President Donald Trump, the budget is central to his agenda of tax breaks, deportations, and shrinking the government. Late Wednesday, Johnson in fact huddled with members in a closed-door meeting after speaking briefly with President Trump. With at least a dozen Republicans opposed, including the Freedom Caucus, the vote was pulled. The process could now stretch for weeks or even months together as Congress seeks consensus. Here's more.
Everybody has the same idea and mission and goal in mind, and that is we want to deliver the one big beautiful bill. And you all know what's entailed in that. We've talked about it many times. This is the procedural step to continue that process. The House and the Senate Republicans are working together as one team.
And with that, it's time we head into a short break. See you on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching The World Report. On to the world of business now. President Donald Trump has said that there's a deal to spin off TikTok's US operations is still possible. Now, this comes just days after the process was put on hold. Trump has extended ByteDance's deadline to divest TikTok's US assets until the 19th of June or face a ban. Now, this deal would create a new US-based company with American investors in charge. But senators from both parties are pushing back. Some say Trump has no legal authority, in fact, to grant these extensions, while others want guarantees that Chinese ties are completely severed. Meanwhile, the Chinese government would also have to approve any divestment. Listen in.
Well, it's moving along, but obviously I would say right now China's not exactly thrilled about signing it. We have a deal with some very good people, some very rich companies that would do a great job with it, but we're going to have to wait to see what's going to happen with China. So,
Mr. President, so on the table.
No, it's on the table very much. I think China's going to want to do it, actually.
OpenAI is now hitting back at Elon Musk in court, accusing him of harassment. That's right, the ChatGPT maker has filed a countersuit alleging Musk has run a smear campaign on social media and also through legal channels to hurt the company. Musk had earlier sued OpenAI over its transition to a for-profit model, saying it violated the group's founding mission. Hitting back, OpenAI said that the attacks are harming its $40 billion fundraising round and warns Musk, in fact, barred from further interference. Despite market jitters and Trump's tariff shocks, Alphabet has said that it's staying the course on AI investments reaffirming, in fact, a $75 billion outlay for 2025. Now, the money will go to chips, servers, and data centers to support its AI models like Gemini. Google Cloud, meanwhile, has said that the demand is strong enough to justify the cost, even if tariffs push hardware prices higher. The announcement helped lift Alphabet shares nearly 10%, with Microsoft and Meta also committing to AI spending above $65 billion each.